You're watching Action.
Thanks for joining us. Juvenile justice is a big topic in Northeast Florida. There is a big push for civil citations and questions about how to stop some youth violence. Action News anchor Mark Spain talks with the juvenile judge.
Joining us this morning on Action News Sunday is Duval County Circuit Judge Henry Davis, who oversees a lot of juvenile delinquency cases. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate it. Now, you assert that the Duval County schools are really incapable of protecting students who want to go to school and learn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I've asserted that. You may recall when you called me last year about coming on the program.
I did.
I told you I was pretty much through with this. But yeah, nothing has really changed, and you still see the same problems. You know, I just left court, and you're still having children who are having to deal with the same problems over and over and over again. You're having, students, just plain getting into all sorts of problems. You have girls being beaten by boys, and nothing changes. This idea that you have students who are just still being disruptive, and there's nothing you can do, turning over desks, fighting with the school resource officers, fighting with the principals, fighting with the security guards, just children in a classroom fighting, having fights before the FCATs and all of these types of things. And it's just to the point where people need to just recognize and just be honest. It's painful to recognize, but you just simply cannot educate people in these environments. If you have people in school who don't want to be there, who don't want to learn, who don't care whether they ever graduate, they don't really care what goes on in the school. They don't mind beating up the calculus teacher. I mean, this kind of thing just shouldn't be tolerated. We lose a lot of good teachers because of the behaviors of some students. I had a mother tell me in court one day, a teacher at one of the schools resigned rather than deal with her daughter, and she was apologizing. So these are the kind of things that everybody suffers. It's not just the fact that you say, well, only 5% of the students are misbehaving. That 5% can destroy the whole school. And we just need to understand that we have children living in Duval County who are under the supervision or control of nobody. They don't have mothers who can control them. They have no fathers who can control them. They're just out there doing whatever they want to, whenever they want to.
And a lot of these children are videotaping these things and putting them online for other people to see and bragging about their fights that they have, either in school or off school property. I mean, there are so many more of these things happening. And so what do you do with those cast-offs, if you will, those students who don't want to adhere to the rules and regulations and be there to learn?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't characterize them as cast-offs. That's your word. But what I would think, you just have to understand that education simply is not a part of everybody's culture. Education is hard work. It's very expensive. If the parents don't cooperate, if the children don't cooperate, you're wasting your time trying to educate people.
So what do we do, Judge Davis, about them? Where do we put them?
Well, I'm not in the position to say where do you put people, but my position is you shouldn't let those who are not interested in graduating prevent others from graduating. Because you have to keep in mind the children who attend our so-called F schools, if they want to go to college, there's no point in them spending 12 years in F schools. They're not going to be able to do freshman level work. So you have to get those children who are capable of doing the classroom work. They have to be separated from those who don't care. And you have children who come to school 1 or 2 days a week, 3 days a week maybe. And these are the type of things, those are not my problems. I don't run the school board. I want to make that clear. But I just see the results of people who simply can't get through school. You have to have a high school diploma to just get started now.
Well, isn't it safe to say that if these children who are misbehaving in school, if they're not doing it at school, they're going to be out in the community doing something wrong, and then you have another problem on your hands?
Well, I don't know about what people would be doing if they were not in school. That's, to me, that's another issue. When there are things I could certainly tell you that I would do, but I won't tell you on this show. But there are things you can do. But the whole point of it is a school is supposed to be, it started out as institutions of learning.
Right.
Now they've become social I guess, social centers trying to solve all of society's problems, you know, with the nutrition, the housing, the feeding, and dealing with pregnant girls, and all of these other issues. You know, got mental health clinics in all the schools. All of those things are good. But you have children who can't learn. You have to keep in mind, when these children graduate, they're not going to be competing with their classmates from high school. They're going to be competing with the kids who attended the best schools in the county and the best schools in the country.
You even went so far as to ban a 14-year-old girl from Duval County schools. That was subsequently overturned. And girls are more and more becoming part of the problem.
Well, here's, I don't know about, you know, any percentages and whatnot, but you have to keep in mind that there's a status attached to being violent. Just like being brilliant, just like being the valedictorian. There's a status attached to have a reputation for being violent and hurting people. You know, like the knockout game. You know, that didn't just start. It's just got some publicity, but that's been going on for years, where you have a group of boys who are going to decide who can knock somebody out with one punch. You know, if you're good at that, status, that's your status. You know, if you're able to hurt people at school, you know, you get a reputation, and people are proud of that.
We're running out of time, but very quickly, I know the superintendent has said, hey, be part of a task force and come on and help us combat some of these things. Would you do that? Are you interested in doing that?
Well, you know, to answer your question, I don't think I'm the person to be on a task force. You know, they've had task force for 50 years here in Duval County. You don't need another task force. You need some action.
Okay.
That's my view.
All right. We'll have to leave it there.
Yes, sir.
Judge Henry Davis, thanks so much for being here this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. And we are back with more Action News Sunday right after this.